When the HomePod first came out, it quickly became obvious what people looked for in a smart home assistant: convenience and price, both of which the HomePod was terrible at. After years of updates and a price drop, the original HomePod inched closer to the competition, but never made it all the way. That's now the job of the HomePod Mini. Featuring a $99 price tag, can it actually compete with Amazon and Google? The most obvious thing I noticed with the HomePod Mini is the size, especially when compared to the larger HomePod. Compared to the Echo Dot and the Nest Mini, however, the HomePod Mini is about the same diameter at its widest point, but it's actually about twice as tall. It has the same white or black mesh squishy fabric like the large HomePod, but a more spherical shape instead of a cylinder. The top features a backlit touch surface that can be used to activate Siri, adjust the volume, and do some basic music controls. Functionally, this is the same as the bigger HomePod. The look, though, to me is very different. It's one of the first things that stood out to me with the HomePod Mini. I think there's something about the Mini's size and proportions that I really like. The Siri LED waveform thing is so much nicer looking on the Mini. It's larger and it fills the top of the HomePod, and I feel kind of weird saying this, but it's actually like Siri is in there. It's really nice looking. The Mini ships with a white outlet plug, which I thought looked a little weird at first with the black HomePod, but I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Like the original HomePod, there are no audio jacks, so you can't plug anything into the HomePod Mini. This is extremely limiting as a speaker because it gives Apple control over what you can play on the HomePod. So it would be nice if they would have added this to the Mini. It would also be nice if the power cable was removable. Depending on where you put it, it's not always easy to hide the extra cable. There's not much you can do if you need it shorter besides coiling it up and trying to hide it. I think the HomePod Mini sounds good, especially for its size. It's somewhat surprising because of how clean, I guess I would say, the audio is. You sort of set some expectations when you look at the size, and then when you hear it, it's kind of unexpected. I haven't been able to test the latest and greatest from Amazon and Google yet, so I'll leave some links to some reviews in the description, but based on what I've read, compared to the other $99 smart speakers from Amazon and Google, the HomePod Mini does not sound as good. That may seem a bit surprising based on expectations from the original HomePod, but those speakers are larger, which, to put it simply, means they have more room for speaker things. Just like the larger HomePod and the competition, you can pair two of the Minis in stereo if you want to create a more prominent speaker setup. I only have one Mini though currently, but I can confidently say that two will sound better than one. What it comes down to is this: if you rank the smart speakers from Apple, Amazon, and Google in the $99 price range, the general consensus is Amazon, Google, and then Apple. Apple's premium price puts the HomePod Mini in competition with the standard-sized Echo and Nest Audio, not the Echo Dot and Nest Mini, even though they are more comparable in size. Generally, you pay a premium for Apple products, but that usually gets you something over the competition in return. And I'm not sure that that's the case here. Powering all of the assistant capabilities is Siri, which may put a bad taste in your mouth, but I don't think it's as bad anymore. Still not great, and probably worse than Alexa and Google, but not bad. Like the original HomePod, the Mini does an excellent job of responding to its wake word. I almost never have to repeat the command when I frequently do with the Echo and Google devices. Since this is a smart speaker, one of the main uses of the HomePod Mini for many people will be for playing music. If you use one of the supported services, Siri does a great job getting the music playing. Apple Music is the obvious service here since this is an Apple product, but they are also supporting other services now too. To be clear, these other services can be set as the default service, so you don't have to specify when you ask Siri to play something. Pandora is working already, and Amazon Music is supposedly coming soon. I am a Spotify subscriber though, and there has been no mention anywhere on Spotify supporting this. This means you have to use AirPlay to get Spotify playing on the HomePod. This is definitely not as easy as using voice commands, but it's actually not terrible with the HomePod's handoff feature, which quickly lets you transfer audio just by holding your phone close to the HomePod. As for podcasts, currently Apple Podcasts is the only supported service with Siri. I've been wondering how this could work if Spotify does end up supporting Siri on the HomePod, because they also have podcasts. It could be interesting. For me though, the main usage I get out of Siri is for smart home commands. I have a small number of Philips Hue lights along with some other random smart plugs and a garage door opener. In my experience, these smart home commands are usually really fast and, for the most part, reliable. All of the smart home devices are controlled and managed through Apple HomeKit. And while this can be limiting for which devices you can use with HomeKit, it also adds a level of confidence. I know that once I have something set up in HomeKit, I'll be able to control it with my HomePod. Having a smart assistant in the home is also nice for other generic tasks that you can do. Things like checking the weather, setting timers, checking sports scores, and playing ambient sounds. The HomePod handles all of these straightforward tasks really well. I've also come to like using the HomePod for personal requests. This is really where it leans on the iPhone. The HomePod can support up to 6 users in your home. So what that means is it can recognize 6 different voices and then use that person's iPhone to manage requests like sending messages, setting reminders, adding notes, checking the calendar, finding your phone, and making and answering phone calls. Overall, I think the HomePod does a good job with all of these somewhat straightforward tasks. But where things fall apart is when you ask questions like, is there a football game on tonight? And Siri proceeds to list off every NFL game on the schedule. It just can't handle things as well if the request is a little vague. Also, there is a clear advantage Amazon and Google have over Apple in the number of smart home devices that support their platform. I've found this to be frustrating for things like doorbells and cameras in general. It has gotten better recently, but there's just not as many options. It's basically a given that a smart home device will support Alexa and Google Assistant, but you have to pay so much more attention to if it will support HomeKit or not. And while using your iPhone to handle personal requests is really nice, it means everyone in your household needs to have an iPhone to take advantage of this. There are a couple other features that I want to mention, but I'm not going to go into too much depth on them. I'm planning on doing a separate video on these features in the future. So please let me know which one you'd like to see first. The first feature, which I mentioned briefly already, is handoff. This lets you easily transfer audio from your iPhone to the HomePod just by holding it near it. You can send music, podcasts, phone calls, and what's nice is that it doesn't matter what app the audio is coming from, because it can just automatically turn on AirPlay. While the HomePod and the HomePod Mini support handoff, there's a U1 universal wideband chip in the HomePod Mini that will improve on this experience, something that the original HomePod does not have. There's also intercom, which lets you communicate through your HomePods to other rooms in your home. So you can tell Siri to send a message to the whole house or an individual room, and then whoever's in those rooms can respond. It also works with other Apple devices like in your car with CarPlay, through your AirPods, or on your iPhone or Apple Watch. I don't think this is something I will use very often, but I think it could come in handy for some people. And finally, the HomePod Mini can act as a Thread smart home hub for HomeKit devices. Basically what this means is, for example, if you have a Thread compatible HomeKit light bulb, it can connect directly to the HomePod Mini. It's not over Wi-Fi or over Bluetooth, and you don't need a separate hub like Philips Hue does. The devices supporting this are extremely limited right now, so it's yet to be seen if this turns into anything. I feel like the HomePod Mini is where Apple should have started with the HomePod line. I really like my larger HomePod, especially now that it has home theater support with the Apple TV 4K, but it's just way too expensive at full price. The Mini at $99, while still a premium price, is much more accessible. I went all in on HomeKit when the HomePod came out, but it was too expensive to place it throughout my home. The Mini makes this a little more doable. However, for most people, the Mini actually doesn't make it much easier to recommend because there are so many factors when deciding on a smart home assistant. If you're invested into Apple and their products, I can definitely recommend the HomePod Mini. But if you're just looking to get started with a home assistant and price and convenience matter most to you, I still think I would go with an Amazon Echo. It's just better bang for your buck.